Alright, back again, look here. And if you remember my last video that I made, I put up a little bit of gameplay here on the Sega SG-1000, and the controller itself was acting quite funny. So I've never taken the controller apart, but I decided to. And here's the inside of the controller. You can notice one thing right there. There's some tape on there, and that looks like the tape was trying to keep this tab here that had broken loose in place. These tabs, what they do is they create contact here by pushing in the middle, kind of basically like micro switches, but really early versions of them. So every time the middle part here touches, then it creates a contact. But these are very, very old, very fragile, and once again, very similar to the Atari. A little bit different in some ways. You know, they don't have the circular round parts, the button kind of coin micro switches or switches that the Atari has, but they still have very similar ones. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to try something here. You'll notice that there's some on the fire buttons here on both sides, and there's a total of 6. Well, I went through my parts here, and I have a couple of CPS2 boards. These are motherboards here that are completely gone, but on these boards here I have 6 micro switches. That seemed to work very nicely. So what I am going to try to do here is see if I can customize this thing to where it will work with the micro switches, and maybe I'll be able to get better contact, better control over the game, and it'll overall improve everything. You can see how dry and nasty that is in there. I'm gonna have to put some grease in there. You can see it's been rubbing for a long time, but yeah, you can also see the spring in the bottom here. And this, you know, I've never taken this thing apart, but it's got some old tape and stuff. You can see where the spring, this is actually the spring here, has been ground a little bit from just overall usage. So nonetheless, we'll give it a shot here and see what we can do, but hopefully I'll put up another video on this once I get that all taken care of, because this is not going to cut it for very much longer. So let's get on that and give that a shot. Alright, so as you can see here, I've just gotten done putting on the new micro switches here, and what I've done here to get these things to stay in place is, I know that many of you guys have probably done capacitor replacement before, and I have a bag here full of like leftover capacitors, leftover parts. You know, these are some parts, some of them are good, some of them are bad. But what I generally do is, you know, I have some of these capacitor legs here, and these are actually, for some of these capacitors, these are pretty thick. This is some pretty strong wire. For some of the smaller ones, it's really, really weak, but you can see here, this is probably, I don't know what gauge it is exactly. It's a pretty heavy-duty gauge here for this one. So what I do is, even after I get done putting a new capacitor in, I'll take the legs that I've clipped off. Like, let's say when you put in a new capacitor into a circuit board, you have about I don't know, this much that's left on it. So you have for about this much here. Instead of throwing this away, what I do is I keep it in my bag, and I wind up reusing it. So as you can see here, what I've done with these micro switches is there's no glue holding these things in place, but these things are, I mean, they're not gonna move. These are really in there. If you see these wires here that are connecting the two left and right shoulder buttons, this is the way that the original setup is. It's just using these two wires here. So what I've done essentially is I've done the same thing. On one side here, if you take a look at the original board, you can see that there are 3 pins that are connected to the same side. So 1, 2, 3. So because these 3s are connected to the same side, what I've done is I've bridged these 2 here, and I've used this one here, and basically those are the ones that I've turned into my posts to hold the micro switches in place. So you can see here, here's one, and then I bridged these 2, and on the other side here, I've got them soldered. Now you'll also notice that there's a red wire here, and that's because the center post here used to be this. Now this was the contact point. It's really, really small, but As you can see, this is one that had tape on it because the other end on this side was broken off. But normally it sits in here like this, and the top part just touches it and makes contact. Well, that was broken off. And since it was in the middle here, I couldn't exactly just wire, you know, this pin here on the side. I couldn't just wire that directly into the center, you know, without making more holes. So what I've done is I've made just a little pilot hole on the side here, just by using just a really thin screwdriver. And a Phillips screwdriver seems to work out okay. Soldered that to the one leg, and then soldered it to the middle pin here. And we've got all those all set up here. Nice clicky sounds. And you could use new parts here, you know, don't get me wrong, but what I'm trying to do is just recycle the parts that I have for right now. And if you remember, if you guys did take a look at that last video where I put up the video on, what was it, safari hunting, and you could see there was a little bit of difficulty with the controls. So I wanted to do this to make the controls a little bit better, and I think it's going to work out fantastic. Now, one thing that I had to do was, because these are raised up, these are actually a little bit higher than what the original ones were, I had to kind of flatten these down a little bit. And what I've done is I've just used my soldering pen, and on the kind of like the back part of it, I've just kind of melted them down just a little bit here. And I didn't melt them down all the way, and I didn't sand them down all the way. You could sand them down if you wanted to, but I just wanted to make sure that I had enough pad here to compensate for the small size of these here. So when I went to put it on here, I would get a good thickness, because they're not all the way down here yet, all the way to the bottom. And what I did at first, I just lightly you know, melted them just a little bit. I put it together, and I realized that it was still pretty tight around the top here. So then I went and, you know, melted them down a little bit more, and it seems to work out fantastic. So what I'll do here is, let's see, try and put this thing in here. See if we can slide this down here without too much trouble. This is how it fits inside the controller here. Oh, okay, I'm gonna have to, I didn't see that right there. A little bit too much on this side. Hopefully that will be enough. I mean, I had a little bit too much solder there, so it wasn't able to go down. Hopefully that should be a little bit better. Alright, so there's that side, and the other side here as well. That side is a little bit more tricky. So what I'm going to have to do here is, because this side is so kind of tight on the inside there, what I'm going to have to do is maybe just rewire it just a little bit so I have a little bit more space. You can see on the inside here, this is just a little bit too tight, so I'm going to try and desolder that, make that a little bit longer, and then I'll come back and show you guys this thing when it's put back together. So let me get that done right now. Alright, there we go. I've made these a little bit longer here because I didn't take into account there are a couple of loops here, and these loopholes, they actually go right through the center in between these two. So that was what was kind of pulling on the wires and wasn't allowing this thing to sit in there flat. So let's try and put this thing back in here and see how it goes the next time. Hopefully it'll be a little bit easier, or a little bit better. Smoother is definitely a good thing with this setup here. And oh yeah, much better. Actually, I made it just a bit too long there, but you can see that those two loops now, those will actually slide in there nicely, so that's not a problem. We'll slide that back in there, and those can just fold over like that. That's not a big deal, having a little extra. What we'll do here is probably put some grease on it, but just to show you guys what this thing is doing here, we'll get the stick, put that on here like so, set that in there, and find the cover. And we'll put this one on here. Hopefully this one will slide in there as soon as I get all of the wires out of the way. Now I don't have the other buttons in there in the side yet, so this will just be a rough idea as to what it looks like here without that. So there we go. Alright, so now you can see left, right, up, down. So it works out really nicely, and it has a little bit of a, you know, it has that clicky feel to it, but that should give some accuracy as far as, you know, when I push left now, that should definitely go left and, you know, every direction. And it's not too tight in there, so I'll just put a little bit of oil on the inside and that should be fine. That should work out really nicely. Yeah, much, much better than, you know, like I said, these things, you know, with the broken tabs on the side there, this was just not making good contact. That was actually really, really poor. And it had tape on it. You know, some of the other ones had tape on them. So this micro switch, or these micro switches on the inside here, should work out really nice. So I'll put a little bit of grease on the inside here, and I'll put those the sides in here, so the left and right triggers, and we'll give this thing a go. We'll give it a test here. So just a second. Alright, so I've got everything all plugged in here. I haven't turned this thing on yet, but just if I can get a hold of the controller here. Just taking a look at the controller itself, I mean, it feels a lot nicer. You can hear the clicky on that. On that side too, and then very, very nice clicky feel to the controller. So, oh, I don't know if I mentioned this or not in the last video, but for these side pieces too, you'll also have to do the same thing as what we did here with the joystick on the bottom. There's a couple of tabs that stick out that press in on the other switches that were there, and when you put in the new micro switches and stuff, it actually yeah, the space is a little bit too much, so you're going to have to reduce it a bit, so by sanding that down or by melting it down just a little bit. And after you get done, when you put a spring on, or when you put the springs in, make sure that the springs aren't making contact with any parts of the micro switches. What I did on the bottom here, just to cover the micro switch parts, I just put a couple of pieces of electrical tape over the contact points, and then put the spring down, and no problem there. So, nonetheless, let's give this thing a try. I haven't tried it out yet, so we'll see. Let's see. Who knows what'll happen. First, let's turn it on. And adjust the camera here. Turn this on. And let's see. Oh, that is much nicer. Look at that. That is some smooth control right there. Very easy to move around here. Nice. Well, wasn't paying attention there. But yeah, this works out much better. Very easy to control now. Very nice. Well, things seem to be working out okay with this. Yeah, I'm pretty pleased with it. Definitely moving around is much easier now. So, total A+ for that. Woo! But I'm still sliding around. I wonder how far this thing is supposed to go. Huh, maybe it is supposed to go around that much. I guess it stops at, yeah, that's what it is. It stops at all of the the little empty spaces on there. I see. Okay. Well, that makes more sense. Oh, come on. No! Ah, I got away. But yeah, as you guys can see, this thing is working really, really well. And I don't know if I can put this up here to show you guys this thing in action. You can see that the antenna part in the back there is not the most stable. But we'll try and put this here. It's kind of crazy. But just so you can see this here. But it works really, really nicely. So I'm pretty pleased about that. I don't know what's going on with all the glitchiness here in the background. Might be the connection there in the back. It's pretty bad, but yeah, as you guys can see, it's working out really nice. This is working out great. So up, down, left, right. Whee! Let's see, and down. So yeah, that's it. That is safari hunting a little bit better than what it was before. But I just thought I'd share this with you guys here. And it's a good little mod, and it seems to work out really well. So, but yeah, that's about all for me for right now. Like always, I'll put up another video here soon. So thanks for watching. It really helps when you get this thing all lined up so you know where you're going. Whee! Whee! All right.